Do you want to say anything, Mike, before um, I start speaking?
Just a note of housekeeping. We are recording the session. We haven't posted any of the videos on YouTube, but we have posted some of the audio clips on the website. But if we plan to do anything more than just the audio, we'll let you know. And of course, feel free to ask any question about the teaching, the living method of spiritual awakening, any of the offerings that Fred has and the whole community has, books, videos, courses, recorded and live courses, and anything that's, if you want to talk about the impact that it's had on, on people's journey, that's, of course, you can ask that as well. So let me turn over to Glenda. She is, of course, an authorized teacher of living method that Fred has authorized, and she's very clear and great at answering all these questions. So fire away. She will answer.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you. Um, it's been a little quiet so far, but I do think that it's a nice idea. I suppose a concept of groundedness. I'd like you to just notice a sense um, of being, of aliveness. If you turn your attention inward, so to speak, you may notice that aliveness as vibration, and it may be sensed as vibration in a body or my body. However, if you look, can you find a border to that sense of aliveness or vibrating or tingling or however aliveness is experienced? Can you find a limit to it? Or is it boundless? And I find no limit. What's here now is boundless. And something that has no limit and is boundless, one can describe as infinite. And the attention that's noticing this infinite, boundless aliveness can there be more, better, or different than infinity? Let's be still for a minute. Thank you. Can we bring attention to the room? Oh. Does anybody want to pose a question or share what brings them here today? Gav, can I put you on the spot? And can you share some of the impact that the living method, in particular, the offering, if you will, of clearing that's available with the teaching? Can you share on your perspective on that?
Glenda, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm having internet issues. I
Okay.
dropped out a couple of times, so I might disappear. I don't know what's going to happen. The sound dropped out just at the last part of what you were saying. I know you asked me my experience with the living method.
Yeah, in particular, I would think it might be help in as relates to the opportunity of clearing that's available with this teaching that doesn't seem to exist elsewhere.
Mm.
Like, I don't know everything, but to my knowledge, in general, in non-dual circles, it's kind of a miracle if there's any awakening, so to speak, let alone that there's
Yeah.
no need for a clearing program. But here there is.
You're going to hear a loud car maybe going past the street sellers. Apologies. I don't know if you
Don't
can hear
hear it. I don't hear.
that. Okay, perfect. For me, it's been a very gradual process of beginning to see more and more of what this body mind is working with or carrying. A lot that, after many years meditation and all sorts of other spiritual exercises and practices and nearly 30 years of stuff, to begin to see how thick or deep a hold the patterns or the ego is here.
Mhm.
And it's very obvious to see, say, reactivity or arrogance. Like, these are obvious things that I can see when they happen, but there's a lot of other stuff that was just never seen. How
Mhm.
deep it permeates through all communication, and even communicating now, awareness of being unsure and watching what's happening to see. It's almost like walking a tightrope, going into. Fred talks about grandiosity, or I can't think of the other word he uses. It's either grandiosity, like, oh, I'm spiritual, or I'm not enough.
Insufficiency, not enough.
Yes, yeah, and that's a fine line on my path or on my work of see. So I'll finish on this. It's just a lot more awareness of that stuff. The very obvious stuff I was aware of for 30 years. There was no issue with that, but it's the very deep patterns and programmings
Yes.
that I'd need to unfold and to see more.
Yeah. So, do you see that the grandiosity not being enough is the yin and yang of uh, a thinking pattern?
Yeah, well, yeah,
Yeah, like it's the one doesn't exist without the other.
yeah,
Um,
but neither are the answer. So
correct.
what I previously, prior to Fred's work, would have thought that one of them, I know
Yes,
arrogance
yes, yes.
isn't seen
Yeah.
as, but I would have thought, oh, I'm trying to get to this place. I'm trying to, whereas now there's more awareness that whatever place I'm in, that this is it. This is,
Yes, yes. And you see that the two together being both sides of the same coin are um, they're it too, but as imagination or
yeah,
illusion.
yeah.
It's all it.
It's all it, but the biggest realization over here in the last few days, and in you asking me this question, is that on some level I always thought that, well, like I see this stuff and I need to work with it, and through clearing I realize no, like maybe 90% of it I don't see at all. It's invisible, and gradually little things get spotted, and if I'm paying attention or clearing or inquiring, I can take advantage of that opportunity, whereas previously there was no inquiry, there was no, so
Mhm.
I just lived those patterns, you know.
Do you see now that there's no one to um, handle it yet by recognizing it as this is it too? There's no judgment, there's no reactivity. And so there's either a dissolving of a pattern or
Mhm.
it doesn't matter if it's there. Does that
Yes.
map
Yeah,
onto your experience?
it takes the sting out of it.
Yeah, there's no sting.
Yeah, yeah. And there's no one to be stung.
Mm-hmm,
The
mm-hmm.
momentary realization that, oh, okay, this is what's happening. You know, these
Yes.
sensations or this story, this is what's happening,
Mm-hmm,
but it
mm-hmm.
doesn't seem to be happening to anyone. Can't find
No,
it, Gavin. But
it
I'd
it
also say
doesn't
that
seem
that's
that
been,
way because it doesn't seem that way because it's not.
yeah. But you know my journey, and it I'm an extremely slow learner, or this body mind, or this piece of awakeness, whatever you want to call it, it's a very gradual process. So even the looking for the me, and inquiring, wondering, you know, who is suffering, or where is this Gavin, or this me, or this person, that's been a very gradual process,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
you know, and a lot of complaining along the way, and a lot of identifying with, and I'm sure it will continue again, maybe later today. We'll see, you know.
Yes. Who knows
Yeah.
what will arise? Well, I, for one, am. Sounds stupid to say, but there's a sense of proud of you. We work together. It's been a privilege and a joy, and it's wonderful to observe the freedom that's evident through the clarity of whatever it is.
Mm.
This is it. This is it. Is being lived very fully and makes a tremendous difference.
Thanks, Glenda. Yeah, it's not like it really is. Prior to working with you and working with Fred, yeah, I was totally convinced that there was just one switch and that's it. And that hasn't been my experience. I know it might be for some people, but it hasn't been my experience.
No.
And even in recent days, and even this morning, there is an increase in willingness and to let go more, or to, I don't even know how to word that
Yes,
in
yes,
non-duality, but
right.
and Fred's line came to me this morning as well. Fred talks about not lying to yourself,
Mm.
And that's quite a deep root that I kind of always, I mean, if you had asked me that a month ago or months ago, or Fred, I would have said, of course I'm not lying to myself. I'm turning up to satsang and I'm doing this work, and of course I'm not. But so deep to not even be aware of lying to myself, or I know that might be incorrect language, believing.
There really is there's no right language for this stuff, but so we say lying to ourselves, but any thinking that arises that is identified with or owned, um, that's the lie, because all concept, all thinking is an interpretation and a lie, an attempted description at what this is. And any description can't describe it. So language lies. It's a necessary tool, but it does lie. And yes, it can take quite a bit of clearing to really get. I don't remember when it happened, but I do remember there was a point where, oh, all, all thinking is illusion. All thinking is a lie. And it was recognized before that realization. It was like this belief, like, well, some thoughts are to be believed, and some not, So it's a big step to, um, and it's not like a final step, because we believe them when we believe them, and we don't when we don't. And yes, it's a process to discover. I just recently had a really big I didn't see it as a belief. I saw, like, the need for pain, discomfort, suffering as a necessary part of maintaining clarity. And this just happened actually yesterday, when it was recognized as a belief. Because I don't know that. I don't know anything. How could I even know that that's necessary? And there's been a lot of pain here, and it seemed to have been helpful to have alertness, or is another poor word, acceptance. It's not that. There's no one to accept anything. But when it was seen that that's an interpretation, and the possibility exists that clarity can be, or apparently thrive, with comfortable experiencing. Instead of the need for difficulty to stay alert.
Mm.
So it's interesting. Yes. So still a realization of belief that wasn't seen through as belief,
Mm.
you know? Well, thank you. Thank you for
Thanks, Glenda.
sharing. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for your participation and your contribution.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Glenda Neo asked a question in the chat. Says, if the separate self doesn't exist or is an illusion, why are we born with it, or what is its purpose?
Okay, let me see if I can. It's better if I see it so I can reflect on it. I brought the chat up. I hadn't been aware of it before. So let's see. Well, we're not born with it. It is an illusion. It doesn't exist. So we can't be born with it. It seems to arise through conditioning, like the repetition of being programmed to believe that each apparent body is separate from things and others. But we're not born with it. And there is no purpose to any of this. And let me explore with you why I say that. I've spoken several times with Fred about this. It's a really interesting thing. I think we're all familiar with in relative experiencing. Things can feel a certain way. And so we learn to see that the sense of something or something feeling like something isn't the same as the, the truth of something. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'll see what's apparently happening, and it just goes and works so perfectly that it feels like it's orchestrated or there's an intention. However, this is so strange. I can sit here, I can hear it's like it's contradiction. Everything contradicts itself because it's not either or. So at the same time, that feeling that there's purpose or direction or intention, that's it too. That's the nothingness sensing that there's an intention. But if you just feel that there's just this alive spaciousness, it's no thing. And this is the reflection of it. This is it, no thing appearing as something. That being said, there truly is only one. This is it. If this is it, and it is, it's complete. It's done. There's nothing for it to become. There's no place for it to go. There's no time for there to be intention or improvement. That's what's so. And it doesn't feel that way experientially. You know, you can't deny that there's it is experiencing. It's nothing experiencing nothingness as somethingness. And yes, it's not to be understood, and it contradicts itself because it's not either or, it's both. It's everything and nothing. So talk to me. I see you shaking your head. You seem to be resonating with what I'm saying. Give me a little feedback about this is the answer, so to speak. Yes, is you get that, you feel it, or if you need more,
I
want
think
more.
it explains it. It's not either or, it's both, and manifesting or appearing as something.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is this. There is no thing. I mean, even the scientists see that there's no thing. The power of microscopy shows that there's only space. That's just, it's crazy. So even the science that we worship tells us that all this is not what it seems to be. But it's not one or the other. Mm-hmm. Somehow this is an imagery or a spontaneous, apparent happening. And it is the nothingness. That's all there is. Yeah.
And they're not separate, as they shouldn't be.
Say that again.
They're not separate.
Nothing separate.
Yeah. So that totally makes sense. That explains it.
Yeah, because
Part of the
this
whole.
is it. This is the unseen, unspeakable, unknowable. And as I look at it, I mean, Fred would often talk of the mirror. I don't know if you've ever, I promote this video an awful lot on YouTube. It's one, I love it. Fred's video, what you are and what you are not. It's an experiential meditation. He speaks towards the end of it about being the mirror. And the mirror not being able to see itself, you know, but just its reflections. And reflections are not separate from the mirror. They are the mirror, and they're nothing. Contemplate that. It's a visual of what I'm speaking about now. And I know when I first heard it, it hit a very deep level what I'm speaking of now. And that's what Fred means when he says we don't deny experiencing, but truly nothing has actually happened. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Makes no sense. We can't understand it, but it's beautiful. I love you, Nia. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you. Andrew.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Great meeting. I think that's killed all my questions.
Yes,
it
that's how it
has.
is. That's how it is. There are no questions.
It has, but you're still talking about something that sounds not. I like what you're saying. So I'll just continue with what my question was anyway.
Yes, good idea.
Yeah. So I've noticed that there's a lot of fluctuations in energy and mood.
Mhm.
So, you know, this morning there was a lot of anger, but it was giving me a lot of power. So I was enjoying that. Sort of an addiction, if you like, to maybe anger, and I don't want to let it go. And I notice that when I'm suffering, sometimes I remember to challenge the thought, and then that thought goes. That's great. But if I'm having good thoughts, I know I want to keep those.
Yes.
And I want a little bit of suffering because I'm benefiting from suffering, because it makes me more creative when I'm trying to help people. I can't help people if I don't suffer, things like this. So I'm taking bits that a bit of anger like that. And I'm just
Can
on
I
this
interrupt
hamster.
you?
Yeah, I'm just on a hamster wheel of emotions, I think. Yeah. So
Yes.
please please interrupt. Yeah.
Can you find you're referring to I?
Yeah.
Who is the I that you're referring to? Can you find the I you're referring to?
I know the answer is no. It's just in every thought.
Stay away from what you know.
Okay.
Everything you know is really not so. We don't know what's going on. We just and a sense of control, like when I hear what you're saying about anger, the arising of anger is like a strong energy. And when it is identified with, can give a false sense of power because the anger is being appropriated by I, but there is none. Can you find the I? Where does the I have anything to do with the body?
No, outside of thoughts, there's no I in the body. No.
Okay, very good. Yes. So, but it is the thoughts.
And they carry a lot of energy. The thoughts. Yeah.
Well, isn't I a thought?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You can't find it.
No.
Where is it hiding? It's not hiding in the body. Do you scan the body? You can't find it.
That's correct. Yeah.
Well, I would venture to say if it can't be found inside the body, then where on earth else would you find it? And why would you even take ownership of it? It's not even related with this false identification with the body. It's a thought.
Yeah, definitely.
The thing about it is that have you had glimpses of true nature or an awakening session or anything like that, Andrew?
I had maybe 2010. I had one day of no self-consciousness.
There was no Andrew. There was no Andrew.
Yeah, and it was magical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's important. So wait, let me try and see. That wonderful day is remembered by the I thought Andrew as a wonderful day. But there was no Andrew present. That's what made it the perfect day.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And with the living method, the work starts with awakening clarity now. And I think you can understand this by what you just said to me. Who the hell gives a crap about what happened in 2010,
Mm.
right? Unless there's clarity speaking now. And the lack of identification as an Andrew, unless that is happening now, it's imagination. Does that make sense? Clarity can only be now
Mhm.
because there only is now.
Mm.
Do you have any access to clarity through that memory?
Mm. No.
No, 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 because the memory is just the thought.
Mm.
Thoughts are it, but when believed or owned, veil
Mm.
that this is it. So let me finish this line of thinking with you. So maybe you can see a possibility of, so first, there needs to be a very, like the clear recognition of, and this is where there's contradiction, of what you are not. That there, you are not an Andrew, and that there never was an Andrew, and that Andrew is a story. Once that's seen, that what you, if you will, are not the body, and there is no Andrew, then what is it that's engaging, having the conversation, you know, experiencing? What is that? And that's explored and recognized. True nature is already here, and the stripping away of what's false leaves what's already here
Mm.
to be experienced, which is not proper. I don't know what other language to use,
Mm.
but what already is becomes obvious. And the overlay of thinking is recognized as such.
Mm.
After you had your experience in 2010, it could have been after that day when you started speaking of what a great day I had, and you went into memory. Who was speaking?
Awakeness.
Well, technically, yes, this is it, no thing was speaking technically, but what is speaking from the point of view of
Okay.
there being a center called Andrew,
Okay. Yeah.
right?
Mm.
The
Yeah.
Andrew pattern claims the awakening
Yeah.
and it is gone. So I'm pointing you to this so you can see how tricky it is that however old you are, from about the time you were born, and probably took about 18 months for your parents to successfully convince whatever this is, that everything of it, that you were just this little body called Andrew.
Mm.
And from 18 months forward, that's been believed. And there is a program, a conditioning, a pattern of its way of responding to the conditions of life.
Mm.
It's a condition response reflex. When you, in this work, there are programs for, we call it clearing. Basically, what you're doing is shifting the default from Andrewness patterns to living as true nature. And it doesn't look a particular way. In other words, according to an Andrew, worst case scenario, you'd still have all of the anger, upset, complaint, arising. However, if it's not yours, does it matter? If rain clouds pass in the sky, does it matter to the sky if they're rain clouds or cumulus clouds? No. So once a default is shifting, whatever arises, it makes no difference to the truth of what is. Because it's not owned.
Yes.
There's no owner.
That's funny because that just right at the end, it just made me angry. And of course, there's no owner to the anger.
That's right.
And then
That's
I'm angry
right.
about that, and then I'm angry about that, and then
Very good. Very good. So there was a distance.
yeah, but I can see the pushing and pulling. Like I want to be angry.
Do
Yeah.
you know when it's funny, this is really funny coming from me because I'm about as low tech as you get. But if you know something about it, technology or programs, I mean,
Yeah.
what does it take to undo a program? Programs just run. They are automatic, And yes, so it takes an unlearning of the illusion or seeing the illusion as a lie. You just did that just happened now. So the spaciousness, the alive spaciousness, recognized the anger arising and didn't take ownership of it. And I think there was actually understanding that it's trying to survive itself. The program survives itself with thinking loops. And in this work, inquiry is used as a powerful tool to interrupt automatic condition patterns kind of wake us up now to what's so, instead of being lost in imagination of thought.
Yeah, but the problem is, I don't want to do inquiry when I want to keep some of those programs. And I want to do inquiry when I don't want to keep some of
Yes.
those.
Well, so what you're saying is when the program's running
Yeah.
and it believes that that program is an Andrew,
Yeah.
it doesn't want to not exist.
Yep.
It doesn't want to be nothingness.
Absolutely.
It wants to be something special and
Yep.
recognized.
Yes. If someone says, go over there, do some breathing, go and inquire, I'm like, no. It's very stubborn. Other
Yes.
times, absolutely love doing inquiry. So you could say that it's the energy that's driving that it wants to exist.
The condition is the conditioned pattern of
Mhm.
thinking that you could call Andrewness. We speak of it like in ordinary speaking, we'll say, oh, I don't like this. I like that. Oh, I never do that. Oh, I'm like this.
Mm.
That's what it sounds like. It's taking ownership of the conditioning.
Yep.
When you're not taking the ownership of the conditioning, it's anger's arising.
But who's not taking ownership?
There's no one to take ownership.
Okay.
Imagination believes itself. It takes itself very seriously. Right? You notice when we're talking to each other and like there's recognition of the truth, you'll like have that little chuckle or that little smile. What isn't serious. There's nothing to be serious about. There's nothing really going on. It's really very funny, you know? But Andrew patterns, Andrewness is very serious.
Oh, yeah.
Imaginary characters are very serious and take themselves very seriously.
Yeah, I've got a very serious imaginary character here.
Okay, so I'm glad you came, and I hope you consider what I'm saying about there's no path to awakening because there's no path to now. Right now, what you're seeking is. And because there's of an illusion of separation, the programming is an illusion of separation. It's looking for connectedness. It's looking to complete itself.
Mm.
It's looking for something that it doesn't exist, and that's all that exists. It already is complete. And right now, the completion of the picture of what's happening is that through that body that's called Andrew, there's a thinking pattern that's believed to be a somebody. And even though you can't find that somebody, the program does not want to believe that.
That's it. I mean, wonderful. Thank you. That's I've got a lot to look at there. I love what you said about it's looking for connectedness, and all of that. And so I'm going to practice that, just that phrase as well. There's awareness of anger. Just see, yeah.
Yeah.
What,
Everything is just what's apparently happening.
yeah.
See if you can look at life as what's apparently happening. What is apparently happening basically comes down to, in summary, three things. Thinking, which we label as a noun, as a mind, but there is none. There's just apparently thinking happening.
Mm.
Then there's sensing, which we call the body or our body. And there's perceiving. Those are the senses that have us believe there's a world outside of us.
Mm.
So you might want to explore those. They're not separate, but it's easy to look at them separately initially.
Mhm.
But if you get in touch with thinking, sensing, perceiving is all that's apparently happening, those are not things, and they cannot be found. They cannot be localized.
Mhm.
It's all arising in spaciousness. And that's all there is. And we're here for you if you're ready to not explore, but actually recognize there never was an Andrew.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll be there tomorrow as well. I think there's one tomorrow.
Oh,
Thank you.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Satsang, yes, with Fred.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I'll see you there. I look
Yeah.
forward to it.
Oh,
And you
thank you.
there's no indoctrination orientation. You feel like questioning, sharing. Doesn't matter if you're first time ever in the room, just it's so if you can raise your hand and interact with Fred, that's the best thing that you can do. And if
Yeah.
it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But
Sometimes I don't have questions, but I'm glad I had a question today. So yeah, it's good.
so that's wonderful. You don't have to have a question. You
Yeah.
could raise your hand and just say hi and say, I don't know what to say, but I just want to say hi. And then you just see what happens
Okay.
because you're not doing it
Yeah.
anyway. So just see what comes out through that mouth.
Wonderful.
I'll
Thank you.
see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
I look forward to it.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, great. Ah, Ben.
Hi, can you
Hi,
hear me?
I can.
So thank you for putting this on. This is the first one I've went to, so appreciate it.
Welcome,
Um,
welcome.
so I hear everything you're saying about the previous question, and it all makes sense. Yet, in this emptiness, I can still detect the ego wanting to craft a narrative in any way, shape, or form it can about it, because there's only it. So the only thing the ego seems to want to, or is capable um, of creating as a story, would be that it exists for its own sake.
Mhm.
But is that still yet another narrative?
Okay. Well, I'll ask the question. I don't know if it's appropriate at this stage of the game, but it's there, so I'll ask. You mentioned the ego. Can you find an ego?
No,
No. It's a concept, is it not?
correct. It's a concept.
So let's
So
look at
act,
it a little closer because you're describing it. In other words, we call egoic mental patterns of thinking that arise. In other words, I thoughts, I think this, I think that is egoic thinking that you're describing. And it's like I was saying to Andrew, yes, as you say, it does seem, if you will, the only function of that egoic thinking patterning that's arising is it sounds crazy to say, but we'll say self-survival. It is a program of surviving its own conditioning, its own pattern, its own uh, trail of thinking, if you will. Does that make sense?
yes. I think where I'm coming at this from is there seems to be an impulse to create a narrative around the fact that there is just this, and therefore I need to do something about that. Like there can be a story about how there is just this, and therefore I'm doing for doing sake, and therefore what does that mean? Am I here to? Is it play? Is it art? What is something for its own sake?
Okay. So, but you're saying there's just this. You said that, right?
Yeah,
How can there be just this and an I who has to do something about just this?
that's where I'm stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It needs to be seen or recognized that conversation of what am I supposed to do about this is it is imagination. And it's not something that's going to happen like that in a conversation that we're having here. You can get perhaps a little glimpse of it, but yeah, something needs to well, with the living method, inquiry is used, very targeted, purposeful, if you will, pointed inquiry that, if answered honestly, unravels, kind of like unties the knots of that I-ness. But it needs to be understood that it is a pattern and it is a conditioning, and it doesn't disappear once it's been unraveled or unseen. That can only happen now. As I was saying to Andrew, a past experiencing is just a memory, and no thinking has access to what is. It veils it. It's hypnosis.
I like the analogy of knots because now I'm thinking thoughts are knots.
Yes,
And we're tangled up in them. So
that's right.
yeah, so we're trying to untie ourselves.
But the I that's trying to untangle it is a thought.
Right.
There, there's no one to do anything. There's just what is apparently happening, and it's spontaneous and not directed.
So the knot unties itself because there's no me to be untying it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Or it doesn't, but it doesn't matter if it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Just to the live spaciousness, it's what I speak of there only being love. There is just acceptance is the wrong word. Allowing is the wrong word. I don't know that what word to use, but like it's like anything goes. There's no judgment of what is, right?
See, I think that's where I was coming from originally was that's a good word for it. Love is accepting something for its own sake, I guess would be one way to say it. Now, that's itself another thought. But because there is just this, or just it,
Mhm.
it is it, if you will. So it's love. But then I want to create a narrative about how it is love, and then that can be self-serving to create an agenda about how to live life.
Yeah,
But that's a thought. So
that's the Ben thinking pattern, wanting to control or feel that it exists by attempting to control. I mean, let's face it. This is apparent happening of nothingness. What is there to control? Who's going to control it? It's just totally free, however it is. Like they say, it's the good, what we would call the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's all, and we don't understand why things are the way they are. There's a lot of stuff going on that's apparently happening that doesn't make sense or isn't acceptable to our sensibilities, you know. But that's it too. There's no judgment. There's no one judging. Yeah. Are there those patterns? There definitely are. That's one of that's a red flag of what is taking ownership of imagination, thinking something shouldn't be the way it is. Judgment. It's like when you notice it, you say, "Oh, wake up." Yeah. Are you coming to Satsang tomorrow, Ben?
yes, I'd like to.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I hope you take the opportunity to speak with Fred too.
Yeah, thank you.
Hmm. Well, like I was saying about high tech, I was trying to see something down here on the bottom of the Zoom thing. Forget about that. It's not happening.
I can just say one thing if that's all right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, So obviously it's a thought that I have that takes ownership of all thoughts and all feelings and all sensations.
Mhm.
So embedded in every thought I have is includes ownership. Um, that's it. I just wanted to say that out loud.
Mm.
So I need to start challenging thoughts.
Yes, a good way to challenge is that true? And then really look.
Yeah. What could I do? Is it true that I own this thought?
Can you find, can I find an owner
Can I find an
to
owner?
this
Yeah.
thinking? Because it's not even a thought. There are no things. It's thinking arising, thinking apparently happened, thinking. Everything, the one that I know of who said this was Sailor Bob.
Mm.
Said you add ing to everything. There's thinking, there's believing, there's experiencing. There's no one doing it. But yeah, can can you find the owner to this thinking?
Mm.
You will not find one.
Yeah. And again, the problem is this conditioning wants to stay and exist, so it might not want to always look.
But so let me ask you, can you imagine in the absence of Andrew
Mm.
or Andrew Ness,
Mm.
is there a problem?
No, no.
No. So you hear when you hear yeah, but
Yeah.
or the problem is, that's the Andrew bot.
Yeah. I like that. In the absence of Andrew, um,
Is there a
would
problem?
yeah, or would
Can you
there be
find a can you find a problem?
yeah, or in the absence of Andrew, would there be any resistance to inquiry?
No, because
Okay.
that's what it is. It's either seeking or resisting.
Yeah.
That's what the conditioning, that's what the pattern of imaginary characters, they're either seeking or resisting. They
Yeah.
either want what isn't here to go to be here, or
Mm.
want what's here that shouldn't be here to go away. That's the program.
Mm.
Dissatisfaction. It's a dissatisfaction program.
That's very helpful. It's very helpful. This in the absence of, that's extremely helpful. Yeah. To break down the resistance. Yeah.
You would recognize it. It will persist arising or it will not. There is no one to control that.
Yeah.
All that could be done, if you will, is to recognize what's apparently happening.
Mm.
I'm so glad you spoke again. Ugh.
Me too. This is gold. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. But the problem is, I love when Fred says, you know, you probably hear him tomorrow in satsang because it happens all the time. He's talking to somebody, let's say, who hasn't had their awakening or has had an awakening, but they're not clear at the moment. And they say, they listen to Fred and they go, yeah, but And Fred says, get your butt out of here. Yeah, but is a big clue. It's program conditioning, conditioned response. Yeah, but trying to defend its position, point of view. There is no point of view. There is no one to have a point of view. If you recognize a point of view, that's the imaginary character. That's it appearing as an imaginary character. Yeah. Crazy stuff. So good.
Thank you. Fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we still have some time. Any other sharing, questions, whatever? If they're not, let me ask you this. We can end now. Or I can kind of ramble on and see what comes out. You vote for that?
Love a bit of rambling.
A little bit of rambling. Okay, so let's see what comes out of it. Well, lately, there's been inquiry about this is it, that this is what can't be known and what can't be understood, appearing to be what we call everything. And this appearance, this nothingness of the appearance, it's bringing me very much in touch with, yes, we do need language to get at what's beyond language. It's like all the language that we use to clear things away and get to truth, like consciousness, awareness, awakeness. These words, they're like subtly experienced. And I guess what's really very powerfully come up lately is how much, no matter how subtle the experiencing is, any experiencing is an illusion of somethingness, of this nothingness being somethingness. So I feel, I don't know, well, I've had anesthesia, but you don't have to have had anesthesia. Just thinking about deep dreamless sleep and how it's just totally blank. Because we can only know of its existence, but we can't know or experience anything of deep dreamless sleep. And the feeling or recognition is how this, the appearances, are the reflections upon the mirror of that blankness, of that mysterious, non-existent, blank, unknown. So even the sense of being, the sense of aliveness, the recognition of awareness or consciousness, this is all apparently happening. It seems anything that can be recognized is an appearance, no matter how subtle it is. And I don't know if this makes a difference in experiencing. Somehow, what feels like over here, it does. There's a lightness about what's apparently happening. There's just this, I don't know what other word to use but knowingness. But it's not that, because there's no one to know anything. It really is so. When I say, Fred says, I don't know anything. And I guess that's what this whole contemplation has brought me, so to speak, in touch with this truly not knowing anything. How could I possibly know anything when the isness, if you will, of this appearance is nothingness? And you don't even know what that is. And this is that. And we can't possibly know that. So how can we know this? But there's obviously, there appears to be, there appears to be knowing. Somehow it's all handled perfectly for an imaginary us. It's just doing its own thing. It's doing everything. And at the same time, creating the illusion that of doership, of us having something to really do or say about anything. So that's what that's what's been arising here a lot recently. A deepening, if you will, of the nothingness of it all. And in delivering a teaching message, it is important to, like anybody who presents in a room, to speak to where they're at, or what the openness or willingness that's there. But even saying that this is all consciousness, there's, I don't know. I do know that without, it seems, without this sense of being or awareness or consciousness sense, there is no, nothing is happening. There's nothing that can be known in the absence of that. But it is an appearance. If it can be experienced, it's apparent. Yeah, so what I said before, it lends itself in experiencing to not taking myself, so to speak, or others or life so seriously. It's really crazy. Seeing the behaviors of people, so to speak, some more skillful than others. Not that they're not all automatic, but some patterns, it's so obviously automatic. Have you ever been with people and they just keep talking? You know? Or if they start talking, they'll just be this whole references to this happened to me, that stories, just it runs. And that happening thinks it's a somebody, a something. And to some degree, if we identify patterns, that's what's happening when that's happening. But if that's what's happening, as Fred would say, that's what must be happening. Because there's no alternative. I can't find another this. I can only find this, and feel the emptiness of it. And with that, enough rambling for today. I love you. I thank you for your gracious listening and attention. It's been a pleasure and a privilege.
Thank you
Have a
very much.
great rest of today. You're welcome. And
Thank
I
you.
see you tomorrow at satsang.
Yeah.
Bye.